Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome everyone to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to grow your leadership confidence and take your business or your life to the next level. Today, my guest is Lauren Fonvielle. Close.
That's good. Fonvielle. Yeah.
Fonvielle. I did French. It sounded so French to me. I was like, oh, I have someone from France. Fonvielle.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Fonvielle. Yep.
Fonvielle. Oh, simple. Like the E, like mine is silent. Or my O is silent. Sorry. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about Lauren. She is an integrative, energy practitioner. So she's going to have to explain that to me. Specializing in EFT and tapping for stress, anxiety, and trauma. Everybody with the stress, anxiety, and trauma need to listen to this. She guides her clients on a journey of self-healing, breaking through obstacles, physical, mental, or emotional, that are keeping them from feeling stuck and they're feeling pain. So today's theme is actually to talk about the importance of acknowledging our emotions. I think the last couple of years tested all of those. So we're just going to talk to my guest, Lauren Fonvielle. Wow, this is going to be interesting. I can think about 100 people that need you.
Yeah, we're all dealing with some level of anxiety.
Yes, for
right?
sure. We always start as an easy question, or with an easy question, where do you call home? Where do you live?
I live in Delaware.
Delaware, Florida. Delaware, Florida, goodness. Delaware. Oh, goodness, I don't even have a geography in my mind.
Well, Delaware's right next to Maryland.
Yes, that's right. So my father and mother, actually, their first 6 months of their lives together lived in Dover, Delaware.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yes.
It's not far from me. It's about 30 minutes south from where I live.
Yes. All right. So now geography's over. I failed at that. Let's just move on to something else. I don't know. That is EFT tapping. What the heck is that?
Yes. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it is a practice of gently tapping on certain points of the body while you are simultaneously acknowledging the emotions that you're feeling. And doing so helps with a wide variety of conditions, from things like anxiety and stress and trauma. But it also helps with limiting beliefs, which can be really helpful, especially for entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and the mindset stuff that goes on, and how we can get stuck in thinking these negative thoughts. And tapping can help you to break through those things, and what I like to refer to as coming home to yourself, feeling grounded, feeling confident. And when I talk about this, because a lot of people don't know what EFT is, I compare it to acupuncture. And that's simply because people are more familiar with acupuncture. So with tapping, while we're tapping on certain points, in acupuncture, they take those needles and they put them in at certain points. And they are some of those same points, because those points that we're tapping on are the end points of the meridians. Meridians are how energy moves through the body, and they're often talked about in Chinese medicine. And by tapping on these points, it's actually sending a message to your brain to reduce the amount of cortisol that's pumping through your body. Cortisol is that stress hormone. And when you reduce the cortisol, you start to feel calmer, and when you feel calmer, you can make those better decisions. And so while it can seem weird, this idea of tapping on yourself to feel better, I know I was very skeptical when I was first introduced to it. It works because there is a lot of science behind what's going on in your brain when you're going through this process.
So without knowing what it was, I've been to several different workshops where we did that. And they never actually explained, or maybe I wasn't paying attention, what we were doing, but it did work. And I did, just as you said, I thought, well, that just sounds like something acupuncture would do.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So EFT, you started to talk about the science, but how old is this practice?
Yeah, so before it was EFT, it was something called TFT, thought field therapy, and it was a practice that was primarily taught just to therapists. And then Gary Craig really is the one who branched off and changed the practice into EFT. I should know the year, but I don't. I don't remember.
But you said it was done in Asia. So is it an ancient kind of practice?
Well, no. So like meridians, like the meridians,
yes.
and Chinese medicine is obviously from
with the
there.
acupuncture.
And this is like derived from that, this idea. Mm-hmm. The way that it started was that there was a woman who was working with a therapist who had this real fear of water, and she had worked with a therapist for a long time trying to overcome this fear. And really, there was no movement. She was still really afraid, and not just like, going to the beach and going in the ocean or going swimming. This was more so, really, really impacting her life with not wanting to wash her hands or do anything with water, right? And then one day, the therapist who had been, studying stuff with meridians started having her tap, I believe it was like underneath the eye as one of the points. I think that's the point that's attached to the stomach meridian, because she would get these butterflies and nervousness. And so as she was talking about how she was feeling and tapping on the points, suddenly the intensity of that fear dissipated. And so that was really the beginnings of this. Was it's become into EFT what it is today, which has then been shared with lots of people, and it made it much more accessible to people. Instead of just therapists, it was open for anybody to learn through a series of videos, and now there's some trainings, and EFT International is a wonderful resource for people to learn more about tapping and find more of the science and the studies and all of that too.
I could see how, when we were shut down, that the anxiety, the stress was huge. And that's why a lot of us gained weight because our cortisol went crazy. But it would have been something, it sounds like something that is, once you understand the different parts, the tapping of it is easy to just do yourself. You don't need to have a coach telling you to tap your eye or whatever. Once you know,
the practice itself is very simple. Once you know where the points are, for sure, and sometimes even just tapping on the points or holding pressure on the points, that in itself can help you to calm down in the moment. I will say that a lot of my clients, when they're first getting started, will come to me and say, I don't know what to say. Figuring out what words to say when they're tapping can be a challenge. And it also can be a challenge, like if you are really what I call feeling the feels, if you're in the midst of really feeling stressed out, really feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or, fearful of something, I almost think of it as like being in the center of a tornado, right? It's hard to see anything clearly because everything is just whirling around you and you're in it. So working with a practitioner can be helpful because it's like that outside set of eyes, kind of noticing things that perhaps you aren't noticing what words are maybe more activating for you and helping to guide you through that practice. But absolutely, people can, begin to play around with this by themselves and, see how far they get and notice how it makes them feel. It can be very helpful. There's tons of YouTube videos available out there. If you type in EFT and any specific emotion that is intense for you, you'll likely find a video.
Wow. I always like to try things first with the teacher and then, I'll venture later. Or a
Yeah.
coach.
And the thing with tapping that is really important to remember is that the words that you use are very important to the process, and getting as specific as possible with how you're feeling. And so you can start off, more globally with saying, hey, I'm just feeling really overwhelmed. You might not even know why you're feeling overwhelmed, but as you continue to tap, it's this process of kind of peeling back the onion to get to the root of what is really going on and why you're feeling a certain way. And that can be a little bit more challenging to do when you're just following along with a YouTube video.
Right.
Because, the words that the practitioner is using might not completely resonate with how you are feeling. So while I make tons of videos too, to help people, guide people through that process, I always like to caveat it by saying, if you don't resonate with what I'm saying, pause the video and try to come up with words that do resonate, and then start again. And so it's an important part. Really tuning into yourself is where the beauty happens with this practice.
So we are either working with you or some other coach or watching a video, and we're tapping away our stress. How long will we start to see a result? And is it, it's obviously, well, I shouldn't say that. Is it lasting, or is it something that this is now a tool for you to use when it happens again, that it's not going to eliminate, or will it eliminate like that fear of water that person had?
Yeah. So it depends on the person, and it depends on the situation. So when we're talking about anxiety and stress, I think, you can definitely use it to figure out what's really going on, because most of the time when we're dealing with anxiety and stress, it's lots of things that have been piling up over time. And then there's that one thing that maybe a colleague says to you, or or somebody cuts you off that triggers you, and now all that stuff that's been building up all starts to come out. So depending on, how long you've been carrying this stuff, or how long you've been avoiding feeling the feelings and acknowledging the things that you've been suppressing, it can take a while to kind of get to the root of it. But you can get to the root of something if there's a fear, perhaps. And sometimes we know, for example, like, if you were in some sort of situation, like you were locked in an elevator and now you have this fear of elevators, and there's a direct correlation of that traumatic experience with how you're feeling now. But sometimes we can have this fear of elevators and not have had that traumatic experience, and we don't know why we have the fear. And so, there's lots of different factors that come into play when figuring out what's going on, and the mindset and the thoughts. And a lot of these things have to do with our past, things that happened in our childhood that we have just shoved down and haven't acknowledged. And so as we work through the process, we hold space for these emotions, and we can get to a point where we are free of them. I do want to say that is possible, but when we're talking about anxiety and stress, I feel like there's always going to be things happening in our life, and it's a tool that you can continuously use and come to, and hopefully it's so that you can utilize it along the way, so you don't get to that point where you explode, right? It's more of a management tool.
So if the stress comes back, but it's different, the words would be different, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all based on how you're feeling in the moment, and then also beginning to make that connection with the physical body. And when we talk about stress, I would say everyone, if not everyone, most people, when you say, when you're stressed out, where do you feel that in your body? Most people have an immediate answer to that, right? Maybe some people will say, oh, I get that tightness in my neck and in my shoulders. Other people may say, oh, I get stomach aches, or
headaches, migraines. Yeah.
And so, beginning to create that awareness around the physical sensations in your body and how those physical sensations are related to the emotions, because more times than not, there are these emotional contributors to our physical pain. And when we are able to acknowledge that, that we can reduce some of that pain.
Excuse me. So we talked about positives of doing this, but are there any negative effects to tapping?
No, that's the beautiful thing. There are no negative effects. And I think it's just figuring out what tools resonate most with you. And so I'm a big proponent of exploring different modalities and seeing how different things make you feel. And this is one of those tools that really had a profound impact on my life, and so much so that I felt called to go on to get certified so that I could share it with other people. And I think that's the thing. Give yourself the gift of trying different things that you're interested in and see what works best for you.
Yeah. And if it doesn't have a side effect, I'm happy on it.
Yeah.
So you touched on this, but what exactly drew you into the field to get started? Did you have your own trauma, stress, or whatnot that just you needed to find an answer to, or was it just you were intrigued?
Yeah. So I was dealing with my own anxiety and stress. I've always, I think, been kind of an anxious person. And I think up until a certain point, I was able to kind of just deal with it, right? Like I think a lot of people do. We feel stressed out, we feel anxious, we just kind of manage. And then I had one of those triggers, right? So I've been shoving all this stuff down, not really acknowledging all of this stress and anxiety that I've kind of was running away from. And we found out that my husband was going to have to deploy for a third time. And this was going to be the first time since having kids. And it was different this time because he was in the reserves, whereas before he was active duty and I expected it. I was ready for it. And when he was in the reserves, it really came out of left field. I wasn't expecting it. And then that was my trigger. We got that notification and my anxiety went through the roof. I started having panic attacks and I needed to figure out something. And my first instinct was to go to the doctor, and the doctor's instinct was to give me medication.
Give me pills.
And I at that point I was feeling so bad that I was like, all right, whatever, I'll try it, and I tried the medication and I didn't like how it made me feel. And I decided, okay, I need to try something else. I'm going to try something else first, and if that doesn't work within a month, if I'm not noticing any sort of difference, I'll go back to the doctor and try something else. And in that time, I left that doctor's office. The next day, I found a yoga studio. We had just recently moved. I think that was another part of the trigger, was that I didn't have any friends or family nearby. So I felt very isolated. So I ended up going to a yoga class, and in that yoga class saw a flyer for yoga teacher training. And that was the first step on my journey. I became a yoga teacher. Being at the studio all the time, I was introduced to other modalities. I became a Reiki practitioner. I started practicing sound healing, and I was in a coaching program. And in that coaching program, I was introduced to tapping. And so I was, just trying out all of these different things to see what was making feel best, and tapping had a really profound impact on my stress level, and I was so curious about it because it seemed so odd, like, what is happening that I'm actually feeling better? I'm tapping on myself and suddenly I feel calmer. And so I wanted to learn more, and I just continued to practice and work with a practitioner, and ultimately went on to get certified.
So it comes to our question comes to mind. A lot of people that have anxiety and stress have hard time sleeping at night. So is there something that they could do prior to going to bed or once they get in that restful state, I guess, to tap to help them have a more restful sleep?
Yes, definitely. Actually, one of the benefits of tapping is better sleep, and it can definitely help with insomnia. It is a practice that I would recommend doing before bed. Sometimes for some people, the issue is when they lay down, there's so many thoughts going on, they can't turn the thoughts off, and they can't fall asleep. Whereas for other people don't have a problem falling asleep, but then they wake up and then they can't fall back asleep, right? Regardless of whichever situation you may find yourself in, tapping can be helpful because it's allowing you to tap, what we call tapping and talking. And you can just tap and talk about your day, anything that came up that bothered you. You know, maybe it was the car that cut you off, or maybe it was something that a friend said, or, you know,
Your boss.
Yeah, your boss, or anything that like is coming to mind. You just tap and talk. And it's this idea of just acknowledging and holding space for it and allowing yourself to feel the feelings. So if you're feeling really angry that your boss said something to you that just was insensitive, you allow yourself to feel that anger, as opposed to, you know, pushing it down, trying not to feel it. And you know, and that's typical. That's what I think we as humans do a lot, is that we don't want to feel those uncomfortable feelings.
Right.
And so we avoid them. And a lot of the time we avoid them by distracting ourselves and doing other things that aren't serving us, like, you know, eating too many chips or drinking too many glasses of wine or beer. And that is not, you know, that's not serving us. It can distract us enough in the short term so that we don't feel those things.
Right.
But then in the long term, all this stuff is continuing to pile up until it's going to come out in some way.
Right.
And so, yeah, like tapping on a regular basis helps you to hold the space and move through those feelings so that they're not building up inside. And then that can also help to kind of just acknowledge all of those thoughts so that they aren't swirling when you're trying to fall asleep.
And it's still the same situation where you're acknowledging where that anxiety is manifesting, I guess, stomach or head or wherever, and that's where you would be tapping for the sleep piece.
So when you're tapping, it's just the same points over and over that you tap on. So it's not necessarily that you tap on a certain point if a certain part of your body is bothering you. And so if there's a physical sensation that you're experiencing, so if you're having, you know, stomach pain and you're pretty sure that it's related to the anxiety, and or maybe you don't know at all, it's okay. You can just tune into that pain, notice what it feels like, think about the words that you would use to describe that pain, and use those words as you're tapping. So if, for example, it's like, I feel this grumbling in my stomach, right? You can just keep saying those words and tapping on the points. I feel this grumbling in my stomach and I don't know what it means, or I think it's related to the stress, all of this grumbling, this tightness in my stomach. And as you continue to say these words and tap on the points, your mind is going to go in different directions. Other things are going to start to come up. Maybe it's the thing that your boss said to you that really upset you. And then you can use those words like, I can't believe he said that to me. Who is he to say X, Y, and Z, you know? And just allow yourself to sit with whatever emotion is coming up when you're saying those words. And then again, your mind is going to go somewhere else. And sometimes it's to a memory of something that you want to try and make sense of, but it's like to a memory of something that somebody said to you when you were a kid. And in your mind, like, that's not why I'm stressed, right? But the thought is coming up for a reason. And with tapping, then we explore it. So then you go to that memory of the time that my teacher said this to me.
Yeah,
that's what's coming up and I don't know why, and then see what other thoughts. So it's really this process of connecting the dots and just seeing where it goes, and it's like an organic unfolding, and you never really know what's going to happen or where it's going to lead, which is part of why I love it. Yeah.
And we're getting close to the rapid fire. So the last formal question I have is, what advice do you wish you would have had when you were 20 now?
Ooh, when I was 20, really to follow my intuition, to listen to my gut, not worry so much about what everyone else thinks or what other people think that I should be doing, and to listen to my intuition and follow whatever that said to me.
Awesome. So rapid fire, I have 5 different kind of words or phrases, and just whatever comes top of your mind. Okay. So is there a certain amount of time that I should dedicate each day to doing this?
At least a couple of minutes. I would recommend at least 5 to 10 minutes.
And you gave us in the beginning this site, but where can we go to learn more about EFT?
Well, I have lots of information on my website, which is Mindshift with Lauren. And then for further resources, EFTinternational.org is a wonderful resource.
So your husband is in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Has he used tapping to help him with his stress?
I have gotten him to tap with me, yes, and it's actually something that has been approved by the VA to use with veterans. There's a specific study that was done for veterans who were diagnosed with PTSD, and it reduced in this one particular study, it reduced the PTSD symptoms of 90% of the people in the group. And they checked back in with them 3 months later, 6 months later, the results were still there. There was still that reduction in symptoms. So
awesome. That's awesome. All right. What is an ideal client for you?
I work with entrepreneurs who are dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress, whether that be from their business or from their personal life, to help them to find that balance and to feel grounded and feel good in their bodies.
Awesome. And so what's next on your path, on your journey?
Yeah. Well, I just recently kicked off a free group that's specifically for entrepreneurs to bring their business issues that they're having, whether it's a fear around public speaking or not knowing what to charge, and anxiety around their worth or what to charge people. And anyway, and we meet once a month for an hour. And it's a free group. It's on the first Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And I'm excited to see where this group goes. It's really had a wonderful start. And I think the options are limitless with wherever it's going to lead us.
Awesome. I don't think you gave me that information, so you'll have to
I'll
send me that so that I can add it to the slide.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of slides, I'm going to share my screen. So if you are just listening in, then this is the time that you should run and get that paper and pencil if you have not already done so. And I will be able to give you at least the website orally so that you can write it down. And it will also be on YouTube and my website. So the website is www.mindshiftwithlauren.com. That's www.mindshiftwithlauren.com. Mindshiftwithlauren.com. She is on Facebook. You can find her with first initial, last name, so LFONVIELLE. She's also on Instagram, Lauren ICO. Is that an O or a zero?
It's a zero. If you just search for Mindshift with Lauren on Instagram, I'll pop up too.
All right. Thank goodness. And then YouTube at Mindshift with Lauren, capital M, capital W, capital L, Mindshift with Lauren. And I'm going to let Lauren talk to you about the gift she has for you.
Yeah, so I do have a free masterclass, and in that masterclass, you can learn more about tapping and the science behind it, why it works, how it works, and then actually get to experience it for yourself in your body. I guide you through the practice, and it's a great way to be introduced to it and see if it's something that you're interested in.
So good. All right. So again, you go to mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass to get that free gift. All right. It has been such a pleasure talking with you, being educated and finding a new way to deal with stress and anxiety that doesn't require a pill or a doctor to screw you up. I'm sorry, to make complications. You've given us a lot today. So I encourage everyone to visit Lauren's website, Mindshift with Lauren. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Yep, that's right.
And you want to take advantage of that free gift. Get a class, get to see and experience it yourself.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to incorporate with any other modality. It can complement it can complement any practice. And I invite you to join me.
Yes, ma'am. So as always, I recommend that you remember that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.